You're listening to Binjang 91.5. I'm in Studio 2 today, and it's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Tony. Great to be chatting to you again from Studio 2.
Very good. Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and it just goes to show during the COVID crisis where there's no medical remedy or very limited medical remedies to the COVID crisis, how they've developed lots of tools to help fight the whole pandemic, and that involves, track and trace. And we've come up with some amazing technology, haven't we now? Because they've got this thing that can identify a COVID cough. So tell us about that.
Well, it is interesting, Tony, whenever you're around at the moment and hear someone with just a minor tickle or a little sniffle or a cough, everyone immediately jumps to, oh no, that person's got COVID. But it actually is now been proven by researchers that COVID cough is a thing. So when people do cough, there is actually a slightly different tone or audible characteristic to a COVID cough. Now, you and I can't pick it up. Human hearing is not good enough to hear it. But there's been an algorithm developed in the US that you can actually put onto a phone, and it can get 98.5% success rate among people who've got an official positive coronavirus test result, which sounds quite incredible. The best part about it, Tony, is that you can be completely asymptomatic, exhibit no symptoms of coronavirus whatsoever, but if you cough, this app can actually pick up that you may well have coronavirus. It's not good enough to then rely just on the cough as identification. You would then go and get yourself tested. But with a 98.5% hit rate, then you're going to be pretty confident that if this app picks you up as having a corona cough or a COVID cough, then there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have a COVID cough. So this has all been researched by none other than the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a very well renowned research laboratory across the world, and lots of great things have come out of MIT over the years. But if this gets to the stage where it's developed into a full-blown app and gets approval by medical officials around the world, then I think this will be something that can help combat COVID. As you say, it's not a cure, but early detection is really important, and then quarantine. So if you can get early detection and quarantining, then the spread of COVID is going to be reduced dramatically.
Well, you can have a COVID cough detector in your shop, Matthew.
You could have. So rather than having temperature checks as people come in, and obviously a temperature check is one thing, but you could have a good old common cold or have the flu, things that aren't related to COVID, and still have a temperature. You might have just gone for a run before you walked out to do the shopping, Tony, and that might have been enough to have a bit of a temperature. But this obviously has got a much better detection rate than things like just a temperature check.
Yes. Now, battery charging, particularly in relation to the uptake of electric cars, is slow. And it's been also an issue, of course, the distance that it goes, but claim recharging speeds are getting better, aren't they? And that's going to make a big difference.
It is going to make a big difference. One of the first things that I hear often when people talk to me about my electric cars is, oh no, it must take too long to charge. And I don't find that a major impediment, but obviously for some people that's a major issue. So there's some serious research being done around the world about faster charging of batteries and actually faster discharge as well, which I'll get to in a minute. But the faster charging, there's one group of research that's come up with the ability to recharge a battery, a car-sized battery, in 90% in 6 minutes. So going from 0 to 90% in 6 minutes, the reality is that's not much different to going to a petrol bowser, filling up, going in and paying for your petrol, buying some chocolates while you're there and then getting back in your car. I reckon you'd be doing quite well to do that in 6 minutes. So 0 to 90 in 6 minutes is pretty impressive. So these are still using lithium-ion batteries, but they're changing the way they actually use the chemistry inside those batteries to get a faster charge. And the faster discharge is important as well. So they've got to the point where they can discharge these batteries 54% in 18 seconds. Now, obviously, that doesn't sound very good. I want to drive 50 kilometres in my car. I don't want 54% of my charge gone in 18 seconds. But there are times when you might need to actually have a fast discharge. In a car situation, you might need a burst of power, but lots of different technologies around the world are using batteries, and sometimes they might need a higher level of output for various technologies that are being used. So having that faster output is actually quite important. Again, the main thing that people will get out of this is that faster recharging, and that's very exciting for electric cars. And even just your mobile phone, if you could charge 0 to 90 in 6 minutes on your mobile phone, that'd be fantastic as well.
Yes, and I guess hooking up cars to the grid having a quick discharge time could be helpful to that too. So you can see how useful this is. One quick question, Matthew, is how efficient is it charging up a battery? How do you get any loss of power in the process?
Yeah, you certainly do get a loss. Every time your energy is changing from one form to another, there's always loss. I mean, the ultimate goal would be to have zero loss in things we did, so we could always retain all that energy. But of course, you can't create energy from nothing. You just change its form. And so the energy loss, if you like, or the efficiency of recharging is quite high. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say it's up around the mid-80s, maybe even as high as 90%, converting actual electricity into power that goes into a battery. But I can do some research further on that for you, Tony, because that's a bit of an educated guess there, but quite high in terms of efficiency.
That's an interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, next question, a question all Australians should be asking themselves as they get older in particular, but it's also very relevant to young people too. So when is the last time you had a full body scan for skin cancer, Matthew? Tell me.
Well, for me personally, yeah, I used to go along every year and have one, but I haven't actually had one for about a year and a half now for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons has been the pandemic, and this is what they're finding at the moment, and this research in particular was done in America, and they're finding that the people going for cancer screenings, skin cancer, full body screenings, a whole range of cancer screenings, was down 94% during the pandemic period, which started around March and is still going now. Now, that's a big thing, especially for skin cancer. Now, Australia is the skin cancer capital of the world, but even in America, 1 in 5 Americans are developing skin cancer in their lifetime. And skin cancer is one of those things that if you get early detection, that skin cancer, we have methods to remove the skin cancer, and the likelihood of that causing major problems for you if you pick it up early is very low. So it's one thing that we should all be vigilant on in terms of having our bodies inspected by doctors, going along and making sure we're keeping an eye on things. But again, for a whole range of reasons, sometimes it's embarrassment, sometimes it's the pandemic, but there's a whole range of reasons that people aren't getting skin cancer checks. But there's been a new app developed called My Skin, MII Skin, and it allows you to have some AI impact on doing full body skin mapping. So essentially you take photos of your body, your full body, and also close-up photos of any part of your body where you might have a freckle or a mole, and then you do that on a regular basis. For example, you might do that every month. And the idea of this app is that then it will analyse those photos, analyse the full body pictures, analyse the individual pictures to see if there are any changes. And then if there are some significant changes that the AI and the app alerts you to say, this looks like some changes that are bad and they're happening in a short enough time frame, there's a possibility these might be skin cancers, then go to a doctor immediately. Obviously, it's not going to let you hold the phone over the skin cancer and let it fix that problem, for example, but it's all about detection. And then once you pick those up, go to a medical professional, they can have a good look at it. You can show them the data from your app, and then they can take action if necessary. So I think it's a great thing, in particular, again, developed in the US, but in particular in this country.
Yes, very important. And you've been listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5. Stay tuned this afternoon at 3:40 and listen to the next session. Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, Tony.